Hey guys, welcome to Home Sweet Homeschool. If you're new here, my name is Ashley and I'm a homeschooling mom to one. And in today's video, we're going to talk about the flow, routine, schedule of my son's 10th grade homeschooling year. Now, before we jump into it, this video is a part of a collaboration hosted by Davene over at Calm in the Chaos Homeschool and Shauna from Homegrown Homeschool. So make sure you check out their channels as well as the playlist that's going to be linked down below, because I'm sure you'll get a ton of ideas if you need help trying to figure out your routine or flow for your homeschool. Now, if you have been around, I shared back in August, I do believe, I shared that we started our school year off pretty slow. We decided to start with a unit study that my son was interested in, and all we were doing was the unit study, a read aloud, and math, and that was just to get us back in the groove coming off of summer break, because we do take a regular summer, and to jump into the school year. It was a really good way to ease us back in after our beach trip and get us into the groove of having a more structured day. So now that the unit study is almost over, about in the middle of September, the unit study will be done, and we're going to be jumping into those traditional type curriculums that I shared with you back in April and May. So if you haven't seen what we picked for my son for 10th grade, you can go back and watch those videos, because we're still planning to use those things. So once the unit study ends and we jump back in, we'll have a more traditional flow to our day than what we do right now. So one thing to know about us is we are very flexible in our day. We don't really have a strict schedule, but I will share how my son kind of structures his day so that he's doing the things that he enjoys, but he's also accomplishing his homeschool things as well. So if you don't know anything about us, my son is 15. This is our 7th year of homeschooling. He did go to public school, kindergarten, 1st and 2nd. He was in private school for 3rd grade, and then we pulled him out, and we've been homeschooling since. And I am a past public school teacher. I taught for 13 years, and the majority of those years were in kindergarten. So that's just a little bit of background on us. So we know what it's like to sit through structured times of learning, and we just really don't need that in our home. I know a lot of people do, and a lot of people like to do certain things at certain times, but that's just not how it works for us. So we managed to get everything done, and we really just kind of flow through our day knowing what we need to do. So this is how my son, he's kind of grown, and this has kind of evolved. Don't expect your 8-year-old to be able to do this. He has just learned over the years what he likes to do when he wakes up. He knows what time he likes to get started, and then he does have an order that he likes to do his school subjects in, and so we're going to talk about all that. So first things first, we usually do a 4-day school week. Occasionally, and very occasionally, we will do 5 days. If we have to miss a day for some reason, and I feel like we really need to get that day in, we will use a 5th day, but we pretty much do a 4-day a week school week. Now, normally and in a perfect world, that would be Tuesday through Friday, but sometimes things come up, and we have learned that this past year. My mother did get diagnosed with cancer. She's doing great right now. She'll just be on maintenance chemo for the rest of her life, but everything has worked out really well for her. And one thing that we've had to learn is to just be flexible with our days. And so while in a perfect world, we would love for it to be Tuesday through Friday, sometimes it's not like that. Sometimes we use Monday, Tuesday, then Thursday, Friday. It really doesn't matter. Our goal is that we get 4 days of learning in. That's our goal. So in my planner, even though it is labeled by day, if we don't get to it that day, that is okay. My goal is I prepare 4 days worth of work that I would love to get done, and if it gets done, that's great. And if it doesn't, we just move it to the next week, because we have to learn to be flexible. We're just in this time period where there are doctor's appointments and things come up. And fun things, like last Friday, we ended up going to the trampoline park. And because we live an hour and a half away from a trampoline park, that takes out a big chunk of our day. So, we have to be flexible with what 4 days we use, but we do try to get in 4 days. Now, for my son, he usually wakes up on his own about 7:45. He does not set a clock. He just naturally wakes up at that time. He likes to enjoy breakfast and catch up on YouTube videos. That's just what he likes to do in the morning. And then he likes to go and get ready. He prefers a slow morning. So he gets up in enough time that he can take things slowly. One thing we hated about me working and him going to school was that rush to get ready and get out the door because you have to be there so stinking early. I'm pretty sure that our elementary schools start at 7:30 this year. And when I taught, we actually started, our school day did not start until 8:30. I had to be there at 7:45, but it didn't start till 8:30. And this year, our elementary schools have to be ready to go at 7:30. And I just can't even imagine that. So he does prefer a slow start. So that's breakfast, watching a little bit of YouTube, and then he gets ready for the day. That's bath and hair, and not that he does a lot to his hair. He's a guy. And then he also has a couple of exercises in his exercise routine that he does in the morning. And so he does all of that, and then he's ready to start. We did actually move our start time up from 10 to 9:45. He did like starting at 10 o'clock, but because we've added a couple of more kids to our homeschool, and I'll talk about that in a later video. We did add a couple of more kids in the afternoons. He wanted to get started so his work could be done. So now we try to start at 9:45. And so what that looks like is I don't hand him. I already have all of our stuff sitting out. He grabs his planner and he looks at the things that we need to accomplish that day. And from there, he chooses what we do first. So he chooses the order, whereas I sit down and look at the plan for the week. What are the things I would like for us to get through? He just looks at it day by day because that helps his ADHD brain to take it day by day. If I put everything on there for the week, he would get overwhelmed. So we do it one day at a time in his planner. So he'll look at it, he'll see what the list is for the day, and he chooses the order in which we do things. That does not bother me at all. I know some people like to do certain things at certain times, but for me, it does not matter. My goal is to do whatever helps him be successful, and if he wants to start with a certain subject, then that's what we do. And I'm going to tell you right now, he always chooses to do math first. Math is not his favorite subject. He's a history, literature, language arts kind of guy. And he wants to get math over with. So math is usually the first thing we do. So we've decided to do math. His geometry class, he'll do it 3 days a week. So we use Learn Math Fast. And for 3 days a week, we're going to work from that geometry book. And on the 4th day, we're going to do the consumer math book that I bought from Not Consumed. And so it doesn't matter what 3 days we do it and what day we do the consumer math on, but we'll do 3 lessons of geometry a week and then a consumer math lesson because I think they're both important. And so that's how our math will go, and that is what he will probably choose to do first. I also know that second thing he likes to do is history. He's just very predictable and he rarely changes it up. And so I don't write this schedule down. Let me just tell you this tip from being a teacher. If you're going to make a schedule, please do not laminate it. Please do not type it and think that that is your final thing, because I'm going to promise you, as soon as you put it through that laminating machine, it's going to change. So anytime you make a schedule, a routine, or a flow, write it in something that can be erased and can be tweaked, can be changed, because it will change. So this is the schedule that I know in my head. I don't have a pretty printable to show you like some people do, because I know this is going to change. So we usually do history after that. So we're using world history from master books. And we're also using the last history unit, U.S. History 6, from Gather Round, because we didn't finish it last year. So what that will look like is we'll do 3 days of world history from master books. And then we're going to do 1 day of U.S. history from U.S. History 6 until that one is finished, because that's only 20 lessons. That will not take us the whole year. So we'll do that 1 day a week until that's done. Normally after history, he always chooses science. And so we'll go right into our science. Our science is going to be so fun this year. I think he's going to love it. It is Forensic Science by Master Books. And we plan to do that 4 days a week because there's not a ton of reading in it. Last year, we alternated history, science, because we were doing a very literature-heavy reading for history. It was a lot of reading to read out of those teacher's guides for U.S. history. This year, that is not the case. The history in the world history is not a ton of information. And then the science you read on like day 1 and day 2. And then the other days, you're applying what you've learned and you're doing labs. And so we're able to do history and science 4 days a week. That should work out okay. If it doesn't, we'll change it. But as I've looked at the stuff, I think that's going to be okay. So those are his main things, except for language arts. So language arts, he usually chooses to do after lunch, and I don't know why. So we'll probably break for lunch, and then he'll pick up the other stuff, which will be his language arts, which is what I've purchased is high school level 1 from The Good and the Beautiful. So we're going to try it out. We're going to see how it goes. There is literature that goes along with it, but I also know that we have a ton of books that we want to read, and I don't know if we'll do the high school one for a little while until we finish a unit and then do something that we want to read. I'm not really sure. We use a combination. We're going to use a combination of high school 1. We'll use a little bit of IEW to work on writing. We also do a lot of just letting him write on the book that he's working on for himself. So we use a combination of things. So usually after lunch is when we pick up and we do language arts. If we're doing high school 1, the read aloud obviously is going to come from that. If not, we'll just read a book that we want to read because we have a list a mile long of things that we want to read together. So that's what we usually do after lunchtime. And then I'm also going to ask him to work on an elective. So I'm actually going to do his electives in a loop. And so luckily this planner that I have this year has this little loop built in because you can really loop anything. But I decided to loop his electives. I would love for him to spend time in his electives at 45 minutes tops a day. I think is going to be okay. Because he spends so much time outside of our homeschool day learning things. He's always watching videos on how to be a better writer, or he's watching things about Japan and Japanese. And so I don't feel like I have to bombard him with a lot of time and information. So I'm going to ask him for 45 minutes max each day of the week, but for him to work through a loop. So for his electives, he does want to work on like creative writing. He wants to work on filmmaking, not really making a film, but learning about film. He's going to work on Japanese. That's his foreign language. And then we're also doing driver's ed through Aceable. And so my thing is I'm putting that in his hands. He has 45 minutes and I want him to go through this loop and get done what he can and then pick up the next day with something else. He said that his major focus is to work on Japanese. My husband, they've both been planning a trip for them to go to Japan. I'm hoping they get to go. They should be able to. It just takes a lot of planning. And so he wants to know Japanese. That's important to him. And so he said that's going to be his main focus. That's going to be in his loop every day. And so when you make a loop, you can fit it in however you want to. He wants Japanese to be in his loop every day. So he'll use things like Mango, which is free through our library. It's an app to learn language. We use TalkBox Mom. We also use Learn Any Foreign Language from the Thinking Tree. And he also just likes to watch. If you watch anime in Japanese, you know, you watch it in English, you watch it in Japanese, and you see what you can pick up and learn. He's learned a ton of Japanese just through that. So he's going to spend time making sure that he's focused on his foreign language, and then he will just move through the loop. Now we're using Masterclass for filmmaking and for writing because there are wonderful authors and filmmakers and directors and producers, wonderful things. And I think that is the best way to learn something is from people who actually do those things. And so I think what he'll do is he'll spend his time on Japanese and then he'll go and choose something from Masterclass. And those are set up. I was looking at one today by James Cameron. I think there was like 15 different episodes or something like that, and they're about 13 to 16 minutes long. And so I told him, I just want you to pick, you know, I don't care which one you pick, I don't care where you start, but I want you to go through the entire class. I don't want you to bounce around. I want you to go through the entire class. And so that's going to be something he's in charge of. I'm not going to manage that for him. I will be there to help him and guide him if he wants it, but I really want him to handle that part. And then I'll just record what he's done each day when he's finished. So that's pretty much how it goes. The only thing I don't know where I'm going to put in our schedule yet is our U.S. geography. He'll get a lot of geography through his language arts program, and then just through Gather Round, we get a ton of geography. But we are going to use Campfire Curriculum's U.S. Geography series. It's a long series, and I do want that to fit into our day, and I'm just trying to figure out when I want to do that. We may skip history a day. We may add it on. If we've had a very light day, then I may pull that in and do it. I know that it's going to be part of our routine. I just don't know where yet, but I do want to make sure that that is a part of our day. So that is what we have loosely planned for right now. Let me know your high schooler schedule. If you were there yet, let me know what your plans are for your high school. How does your day flow? What is your routine? Do you come up with it, or does your child have a lot to say in it? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure you check out that playlist. And as always, thank you so much for watching.